afternoon, everyone. This faculty capacity development workshop is for all staff members of our faculty of education. I should thank the Dean and the head of the Department of ST and the coordinator of the MTE program for inviting me to do this workshop. Even though it's a workshop, due to certain restrictions, we won't be able to do a lot of interactive group work and all. However, the purpose of this workshop, I should mention that. Now, we have named it as Becoming an Effective Facilitator of Learning, right? Now, we are all, as academics at the Open Institute of Sri Lanka, and especially at the Faculty of Education, we do a lot of interactions with our students, and when we conduct our day schools and when we design our learning experiences for us, we should be facilitating our learners effectively. So it's important for all of us. That's why we invited all staff members, especially the newcomers who have very recently joined us. Even though we originally decided to have this with special reference to Master of Teacher Education program, that was the first idea, but then later on we thought it's good for everybody to get this information and for the whole faculty to get involved in this session. So that's why we have named it like this, but everything is based on the Master of Teacher Education program. Now why is that? I will tell you why is that, right? Okay, so do you know what is this? What this is? Yeah? That's an award. You can see it's an award, no? Award received for what? Award received for this particular program. So this is the first program, as I believe, that has received an international award. First program at the Open Institute of Sri Lanka that has received an international award. So that was in 2008, right? Long time ago. So you see, there must be something unique about this program to receive an international award at that time, right? So that's why I wanted to start my session with that, so that you will realize why we are focusing on this program, because this is considered as a model program by the Commonwealth of Learning. It was developed by the Faculty of Education in partnership with the Commonwealth of Learning. I think you should know a little bit of background, especially those who are new to the faculty. It's good to know the background as well. Those who have been there, they already know. But this was developed in 2003. That is 20 years ago, 2 decades ago, we developed this innovative program, right? So I think you should know that. Because when we talk about the features, you will realize how creative that has been at that time. Because now we are talking about most of those concepts as if they are new concepts, but we have been doing this since 2003. And we inaugurated this program with the name of Master of Arts in Teacher Education International, because it was developed with international collaboration, right? International experts also contributed, and local experts, of course. So it was called like that. Later on, with certain developments, now we call that Master of Teacher Education, MTE. Originally it was called as Master of Arts in Teacher Education International. It's the same program, only the structure was a little bit different, changed. But the main course design, the program and the courses, the design of it the same innovative features we have maintained. So if you are interested about this history, I request you to refer to this article written by myself and Professor Gunadhana, Made I Story. We published it in 2008. It's available. When you search, you can find it. The whole history is there, because I'm not going to spend more time on history, but I think you should know the key people who were involved with it. So I would like to mention especially our founder dean, late Professor Chandra Gunadhana. So she was the dean at that time. So she was bold enough to propose this innovative, different program to the University Council and get approval also. You will see how it's different. And Professor Mohan Menon, who was the teacher education specialist at the Commonwealth of Learning at that time, he is the one who supported us with the Commonwealth of Learning funding, because it's with international experts and all. So he helped us a lot. And the main facilitator was Professor Somnaidu. I'm telling because these three are the key people who were behind in the origin of this program. And this is a group of the original group. Maybe few people are missing there. So as you can see, some of them are no longer with us. Many of them have retired. I hope you can identify some of them. I'm just showing these to just give a little bit of background. So we had, you can see the banner, right? We had series of workshops, series of very interactive capacity development workshops at that time, 2003. I was a very junior academic at that time, but the whole faculty, small number, whole faculty got involved in the development of this program, and finally we inaugurated it in 2005, right? Then we received this Excellence in Distance Education Award in 2008 at the Pan Commonwealth Forum in London, right? So that award is in the Dean's office. You should be proud of it. It's in the cupboard of the Dean's office. Everybody should know it because it's a treasure. Okay, so why did we win this award for distance education materials? What is the unique? That's why that's why I'm highlighting. Why? You wouldn't just get an award. No. So there are some unique features, innovative features even at that time. At that time it was like we didn't have a lot of technology, novel technologies and all we didn't have, right? So that's why I'm going to discuss with you what are the key features. At that time we prepared these print-based materials, but these print-based materials were prepared in an innovative way. So as you can see, in 2003 we initiated this concept of study guides for the first time in this university. Study guides. We are the first ones to develop study guides, right? So that concept, study guide concept. Then resource pack. Then we only had, we had CDs, at those days we were using CDs for multimedia. So that's the package. Okay. Now, what's the aim of this program? Before I come to the features, what's the aim? Now, why is this program different? Why is it different? Now, this program was focused on developing professional competencies of teacher educators, that category of people, teacher educators, because there was a need to develop teacher educators of this country. But we did not want to do a traditional training program, right? So the aim of this program was to make reflective practitioners in the system, education system, right? Reflective practitioners. Now, and the other thing is to develop their competencies in selected 6 key areas, right? So these are the areas. I'm not going to read them out. As you can see, there were 6 key areas that we identified as all teacher educators should have competencies in. Now we are all teach educators? No, we are also teach educators. So we should also have these competencies in us, right? Okay. So then, now I am going to ask you, okay, now you can see the course titles. Now when you look at the course titles itself, you will see it's different from our traditional course titles, right? What's the difference you see? When you read the course titles, now usually you see the course titles in our normal programs, no? Educational technology, educational psychology, educational management. That's the usual way you give titles, no? What's the difference you can see? It's focusing on their roles. It's focusing on the teacher educators' roles, because we wanted to develop their competencies to play their roles. That's why from the beginning even the titles were different, right? So teacher educator as a teaching learning specialist, as a curriculum developer, as an education technologist, as a professional, as an educational manager and leader, and as a researcher. In addition to that, for the first time again, I am emphasizing on these first times, which happened 20 years before, right? The separate course on learning portfolio, right? Now, even we have not ever heard about that concept before, learning portfolio. But then we researched and identified how can we do that, what's the importance, because remember the aim, making reflective practitioners. So this learning portfolio was included to promote reflective practice among our target group, right, the student. Okay, so that's a little bit of background. Now we come to the pedagogy. Now this is where all of us can think, okay, now I am sharing the experiences of what is available in the MATE or MTE program. But now I would like you all to think how we can apply these concepts in other programs and other courses also, right? So here we adopted this pedagogical design called scenario-based learning. Now when you hear that word, what's the idea coming to your mind? What would you think, what sort of a pedagogy that might be? Based on situations, based on practical situations, scenarios, right? So what are scenarios? Actually they are like situating the learners in real life context, right? And that's called situated learning. You will know, as I'm sure you all know, situated learning theory grounded in the principles of constructivism. Now we all know about constructivism. I am not going to describe, because you all know. But how we applied this, that's the important thing. How we now, it's not only teaching, but how to apply that in our practice. That's what I am going to show you how we did that. So remember the names had the focus on the different roles of the educators, no? So the idea is to create a storyline, the scenario. It's like a story, right? So it's a creative process. You just can't write a story quickly, no? It's a creative process. So the teams worked creating these storylines, but not just a story, but focusing on those roles of those 6 roles we have identified. So 6 teams worked separately, right? 6 teams worked separately, and it's not only the story, right? Now it's not only telling a story, no. The idea is situating the learners within this scenario and providing them with opportunities to learn within that scenario. So what else do we have to develop within the scenario? not just giving a story, no. So if we want them to achieve through yes, activities, you have to give learning activities embedded within the scenario, right? So that's what we did based on the fundamental principles of meaningful learning, because we wanted them not to, just to give a story and read and, not like that. But within the story, they will be actively engaged in learning by doing, right? So it's very practical, actively engaged. Problem solving within authentic settings. Now we are talking, everybody is talking about authentic learning. But in 2003, we created these authentic learning scenarios. We call them authentic learning scenarios. The term authentic was used even at that time, we used, right? So we created these authentic learning scenarios, then scaffolding the learners to achieve the learning outcomes, and also the assessment tasks. Even the assessment tasks were designed in an authentic manner. Now we'll see how to design. Now that's where you will have to think how we can use these principles in our current teaching learning process also. Okay, so the basic attributes of scenario based learning, 3 key components are there, right? So what are the 3 key components? The learning scenario is there. So the teams developed. Then we have to develop the learning activities. Now these activities are not just traditional activities, right? They are also focusing on problem solving, right? Within the scenario, the learners are faced with challenges. The activities are given in the form of challenges, right? So they face the challenge. They have to do something to face that challenge. So that's the learning activity. Now how to do the learning activity? We have to support them with the learning resources, right? Then that's the content. The content is learning resources. Then how do we know they have achieved the learning outcomes? How do we know? Through the assessments. So we have to design the assessment tasks. Those are also not traditional assessments, right? Those assessments were also designed in a way so that it is demonstrating that when they do the assessments, that's demonstrating that they have achieved the learning outcome, right? So I will now show you, otherwise if I just keep on talking it will be a little bit boring, no? An example of a scenario, an example of a learning scenario, right? Now those days we just had written scenarios. Later on for another project we developed scenario based videos. So I thought rather than just reading a written scenario, it might be interesting for you to watch a short scenario based video, right? Okay, so we'll watch this scenario based video now.
So now we have to discuss how we can go for a good course revision. What are the alternatives we can use in place of the old course material?
Well, why don't we make a list of latest textbooks in the subject area and obtain access to the instructor manuals and the PowerPoint slides?
Yes, that is something. But unfortunately, all books don't have instructor manual and PowerPoints. You know, most of time it is not allowed even photocopy the relevant part of a book to distribute among students.
Yes, that's the point. And the other problem is most of the time such textbooks are expensive. And we are currently facing some financial issues purchasing of course material.
Can't we take the relevant content, including diagrams and notes, and alter them to match our requirements?
I don't think that's a good idea. We face copyright violation issues just for copying the information from the existing material. So altering them would be out of the question.
Yes, that's a problem.
Don't we have any open source material that we can use, just like open source software?
There are something called Open Educational Resources, OER, that we can use.
What are open educational resources?
Well, just like open source software, they are freely available for the users.
Great! Can we make changes and alter them according to our requirements?
They have some sort of a licensing method which we must follow, and according to the type of the material, we can change or alter them to suit our needs.
Are there only text-based material?
There are text-based ones as well as audio visuals and other formats.
Interesting. How exactly can we use this OER?
Well, actually I got introduced to them recently, so I am not familiar with the use of OER.
Okay. This is interesting. Let's all find out more about OER and explore its potential when we meet in a week's time for a discussion on whether we can practically use this OER for our work.
Okay, so that's an example of a short scenario-based video that we produced later on, but originally we wrote scenarios. So now the idea is, through a scenario, what we are trying to now do, to give a current, give an issue faced by practitioners or educators in that context, the current issue, right? So in this context, it was not having access to enough resources. But in our other courses, we identified the real life issues, the authentic issues we identified. So around the issue, we built up the story. But it's not just building up. The story ends with posing a challenge for the learners. Now here, the challenge was, okay, so there's this new concept about open educational resources. If I take this example, okay, then that the students, now students are watching, they are given that challenge, okay, now you go and find out information about open educational resources and create a concept map how it can be integrated into our teaching and learning. That was the challenge given to them in that particular thing. But in other scenarios also similar approach, right? So that is to sort of activate the learners, situate them in the scenario, then pose them with a challenge. Now pose them with a challenge, okay, come up with a concept map about OER. Now how will they come out with without knowing nothing? So we have to facilitate. How can we facilitate? How should we now? We give them a challenge, then we have to facilitate them in different ways. So we have to provide the relevant resources, we have to give them the clear guidelines. So a lot of things have to happen from our part. We just can't expect students to just do it on their own, right? So that's what I'm trying to tell you, what are the unique features of this pedagogy we adopted, and how our facilitator role is should cater to the needs of the students in this scenario. So this is, as you can see, it's very practitioner oriented and learning centered. Learning, not just learner centered. You know, we always talk about learner centered, but now the focus is on the process, learning process. The learners will be there, but we don't know whether they are really learning. So the learning centered approach. And the other thing is, this is the important thing, it's not content driven but context driven. What's that? Usually our practice is to give lot of content, just give lot of information, deliver information. That's the usual traditional practice too. No, now we didn't do that. We didn't give any content. We situated them in a context, then placed them in the context, posed them with a challenge, and then provided the content in the form of learning resources so that they will face the challenge. That is, the learning activities are the challenge. Now to do the learning activities, the content is provided. So that's why it's not directly just delivering content, but context driven. So when you design in this way, we are promoting this development of higher order thinking skills. You know what are higher order thinking skills. Now if we just deliver information, we are promoting the lower order thinking skills, no, like rote learning, just memorizing facts, recalling. We all talk about that. But unfortunately we see that's happening with our school teachers, and we see that still that's happening in our system. So how can we support them to deviate from this content driven to context driven and support development of higher order thinking skills such as critical thinking, creative thinking, problem solving abilities, reflective thinking. So a lot of things are happening when we design our program in this way, and not just acquiring knowledge but applying knowledge. Now we are talking about these things, but are we really helping our students to develop these skills? That's what we should think as educators, right? Okay. And the other important thing is, this is the first program in this university without a traditional final written examination. So you can imagine how long time ago to get the approval for such a thing, to deviate from a traditional, that's our very conventional mindset is for traditional final written exams. So at that time, that's why I said we should thank our founder dean for being able to convince the OUSL council and get approval to function this program as the first program without a final examination. So if you don't have final examination, how do you assess them? So we assess them continuously throughout the program, continuous assessment via, now we call them mini projects, because they are not just like traditional assignments where you just copy from notebooks or anything. They really have to go to the field, do something, and then collect data maybe, or engage in certain things, and then address the learning activity. That's why they are all mini projects, and we all assess all those mini projects. That's how it happens now as well. And later on we developed assessment rubrics. That's another important thing, because since you don't have a final examination, about there raises some issues about maintaining the quality of assessment and to avoid biases and all. So we have the double marking as in other programs, but we don't have this written examination, but we have the assessment of mini projects. Then we created assessment rubrics, right? I hope all the courses are having, but most of the courses are having assessment rubrics. If not, you should, because then it reduces the biases. It reduces the biases. Okay. Then the other thing is the study guide, as I mentioned, developing study guides. So that I am not going to go into details, but the thing is the study guides included all these scenarios, learning and assessment tasks, and the study schedule, the learning resources, everything. Now originally we developed everything in the print form. Now everything is online because we moved on to the blended online course. All the courses are blended online courses. And the other thing, the learning resources. Now we had to provide the learning. Now that's our part. We had to select the most suitable learning resources. We just can't expect students to, okay, you go and find any resource. No, you have to, us, the teachers, the facilitators, we have to find the most suitable resources and integrate them at the particular point. So if you have the first learning activity, to facilitate that activity, which resources are useful and particularly which resource, right? Not only just giving a full book to read. No, if it's a book, you have to mention which part, which chapter, from which page to which page, likewise, right? If it's a video, if the full video is not relevant, which part? So likewise, it's our responsibility to identify the most relevant learning resources and give them as essential resources. Essential resources. We had this concept of essential resources and additional resources. Now, essential resources are the important ones where we have to very carefully select them. Additional resources are in addition to essential to get additional knowledge, right? And at that time the OER concept was not there. When we developed, the concept of open education resources was not there. But even at that time, there were free resources available. For example, we used some videos developed by Commonwealth of Learning and distributed freely for free use. Even though the term OER was not there, we were using OER even at that time because they were open resources. For research methods, we used one of the free resources like that. And later on, we started finding open education resources and integrating. Now for that, we need to develop our skills in how to identify and integrate open educational resources. And about the online courses, now I mentioned in 2003 we started this developing the program. In 2003 is the year where online education is introduced to Open University as well, right? So at that time, few people took the initiative to develop online courses from 5 people actually. So I was among those 5 from the Faculty of Education. I took one course of this program, that is the course I was coordinating, Teach Educator as an educational technologist, and created the first fully online course at OUSL, right? That was it. But fully online is, we did that for some time, but fully online is challenging in our context, as you know. We have a lot of challenges. All students can't access fully online courses, so it's unfair. So we decided to go into blended mode. So up to now, we have all 6 courses as blended online courses. Okay, there we have all these, the activities, the resources, the assessments, everything is there. Now, how did we, this is something, a base we considered when developing these courses. We called it a learning engine, right? Okay. Can anyone look at it and try to explain it? It starts with, maybe the words are not very clear, starts with commitments, our commitments. Now we have a commitment to our students, right? Now we are educators, we have our student group. We start with our commitments to our students. Then okay, so then we decide on how we are going to organize this course. Then we decide the learning outcomes. That's where we start now. In any course we start with the learning outcomes now. Then okay, what happens? Then we decide the context, because this is context based. What is the context of our learners? Now in this particular program, the context was teach educators context, right? So where they are teaching as teach educators. Now when we are dealing with school teachers, that's a different context because that's a school. If you are dealing with preschool teachers, then it's a different context, right? Likewise, you have to think about the context, because the scenarios should be relevant to the context. Otherwise, how can you situate the learners in the context, right? Then only you create the learning scenarios. Now, when you create the learning scenarios also, that has to be relevant, and I mentioned the components that should be there, the activities, assessments. To do those things, they need resources. That's where we integrated the open education resources. So that's like a machine or an engine that's going, because continuously they were engaging throughout the course, they are engaging in this learning and assessment tasks with the support of OER, with the support of the resources, right? So that's why we have moved away from this content. Now, usually we would deliver content, we would not think about the other things, but we just think about delivering content and then giving a final examination paper to just write. That's the traditional practice. So this is the different way adopted in this particular program. Now, all these things are nothing new actually. We all know, as educators, we all know, and these things have been told, by educationists, psychologists, everybody for centuries and centuries, these things have been talked about. However, are we applying them? That's the thing. Now, for example, first principles of instruction. Now, any learning experience, when we are designing, we should think about these first principles of instruction. From where should it start? When you look at that picture, what do you think the starting point? Problem. Yes, problem. So you start with, that's where the scenario also we are posing them the problem or the challenge. Challenge is the problem. So problem-based learning, then we have to activate the learners. We identify the problem and then activate the learners, right? Then, okay, so this is these are the first principles of instruction. I am not going into details, but you can read Merrill's first principles of instruction, how problem-centered learning can be promoted, how to activate learners, demonstration, application, how to support them apply their knowledge, and how to support them integrate that into their day-to-day life. Now, it will be a meaningful learning only if the learners integrate what they have gained into their real life. That's the main thing, right? Okay, so now we come to our facilitator role. Now, all this I told you as some background information, because even though the topic is about effective facilitation, to facilitate we should know these things, right? Without knowing the context, or without knowing this background, how to thinking about how to facilitate is not going to be effective. So how do we facilitate? So now we can facilitate in different ways. Now I am going to ask you, right? Now I am going to ask you. Now I hope you all agree with this quote. Do you agree with this quote? Vygotsky has said, the teacher must adopt the role of facilitator, not content provider. I am sure we all agree with that, right? But are we really doing that? That's what we all have to reflect on ourselves when we facilitate our students at our day school sessions or anything. Or in the online courses, think, are you just providing content or are you really facilitating? Right? So you have to reflect on yourselves and think. So what should the facilitator do? Now this is another thing that have been talked a lot recently, but this concept is not new. Now even in this program we have adopted the flipped classroom approach. What is a flipped classroom? You know, flipping the classroom, traditional classroom where the lecturer will go and deliver lecture like this, right? But when you flip, what happens? You don't deliver lectures, you give the content beforehand so that they come prepared. Then what do you do during the session? The activities. So that is the concept of the Open University as well. That is the concept, ODL system, that's the concept, right? That's why we give them all the learning materials beforehand. Now we used to give them as modules earlier. Now we give everything online. Why do we give everything at the beginning? Because in the ODL system, the learners also have a certain responsibility to engage in self-study. There's no point delivering the same content at the day school. We don't call them lectures, no, it's a day school. So at the day school, if we are delivering the same thing, what's the point of giving them beforehand? Then where's the interactivity? So that's the thing, this flipped classroom approach. Now in this program also we adopted the flipped classroom approach, right? So you all have to think, how can we adopt the flipped classroom approach? It's not just about talking. Now we will tell our student teachers to do this. But are we doing that? Right? So that, because we have to practice what we preach, no? Right? So in our day school sessions, are we organizing them as flipped classrooms? Are we adopting this approach? Now about facilitating. Okay, now you tell me. Now facilitation can happen in different aspects. So many different aspects are there. So where do we start? Now if we focus on this particular program, now I told you what are the main components and the unique features of MADE program. No? Now our discussion is focusing on the MADE program, that's why I gave you the background information and the unique features. So where should the facilitation start? Yes? Starting, what's the starting point? Assessment will come later, no? Yeah? We have to start with the, yes. Even the scenario creation, we have to identify, okay, what are the learning outcomes we are expecting our students to achieve. Because even creating the scenario should be relevant to them, isn't it? So we have to start with the learning outcome. That's how we do now our course development. We start with the learning outcomes. But it's not just writing the learning outcomes. Now writing the learning outcomes properly is also part of facilitation. Because, why do you think? Do you think that's part of facilitation? What sort of learning outcomes should you write? Achievable, of course, achievable, which the students should be able to achieve at the end of the course. It's not just writing something, no. So from there itself, we have that's where our commitment comes in. Remember, we start with our commitments. Okay, whether during this period, whether the students can achieve this, and if we are expecting students to achieve the learning outcomes, what's that diagram? What's that triangle? Have you seen that before? What do you call that? Huh? What do you call that? What alignment? Yes. Constructive alignment. Good. Everybody should know that. Everybody should know that. Constructive alignment. What is constructive alignment? It's not only having the learning outcomes, but aligning the learning activities. Now we have to develop learning activities now, and the assessments. All should be aligned with each other. If they are not aligned, we are not facilitating our learners. They will be confused. If you have just written learning outcomes and then develop some other irrelevant activities and assess on a different thing, there is a mismatch, no? Right? So it's not a facilitation. So constructive alignment is very important, right? So we have to carefully design. Now we are functioning as designers, right? There's this concept of teachers as designers. We are all designers. We all can be very creative, right? You just have to think creatively. Just not think in the same traditional way. Think differently. Be creative and design. Use that word, design. Then that creativity comes with the word design, right? Design all learning and assessment tasks. So if you creatively design, it won't be a traditional written paper where you will just write something by referring to some books. No, you have to carefully design the learning activities and assignments, maintaining constructive alignment. They all match with each other. So this is very important. And in this particular course, I hope the other courses also will think about making them blended online courses, because we are moving, even amid challenges, we are in the digital era now. So we are moving towards electronic communication, our online course support is there. So at least blended courses, because only 20% assessments are required there. So that you have to design again, right? So our LMS is set up for that. We have all the support. So that's another thing, how we can facilitate the online course. That's another responsibility we have. How should we facilitate? Not only designing and giving the activities, but giving those relevant learning resources and updating them. Each year, things are changing very rapidly, right? So we should not just stick on to the very old books. Now, those days when we didn't have the internet or online access, we had to just depend on the books available in the library. But now it's not like that. No, we have access. We have access to not only books, multimodal resources, multimedia types are there. So it's not just giving readings for students, right? There is different variety of resources, multimedia resources. So that's another thing. And of course providing very clear orientation. As facilitators, now our role, right? As facilitators, are we regularly using the LMS ourselves? Are we logging in and see whether students need any help? Are we putting any announcements to give them instructions, motivate them, give them some feedback? Are you really doing that? You have to think about that, because our students are not meeting us regularly. They are distant learners, right? So they need this human interaction. If we don't meet them physically, the online interaction is there. So if we just use this in that way to interact with the students, not only putting some resources and think that's it. No, you can communicate with them, interact with them. Not only that, monitor whether they are using the resources and whether they are doing the learning activities, right? And assessments also, we can give feedback, right? So all these things are possible, I am telling, because in my course I am doing that, and in some other courses I know we are doing that. It's possible. So it's possible, but we just have to make an effort and do that. If we really want to facilitate, we have to think about these things as well, how to facilitate them. And the day schools. Now we meet them very rarely in the sense, like in traditional universities, we don't meet them every day. We may meet them only once a month maybe, or in main program even less than that, right? So that day school should be an interactive day school. Now we used to meet them physically, but after COVID we started using the Zoom based day schools. Still, Zoom based day schools also you can make interactive. Physical day schools also we know how to make it interactive. That's the other thing. Now I am going to ask you all these questions in a little while, right? How to make them interactive. Now we have designed, in our faculty we have designed this activity based assessments. In other programs also we have. That's a very good thing because the assessments are also activity based. So that designing the activity based assessments is also our part of our role, right? Then as I mentioned, the rubrics. Okay, now these are some critical questions I am asking you to consider when designing meaningful learning experiences for our students. When I mean designing meaningful learning experiences, that can be online, on-site, at a day school, when you are designing a learning activity, anything, right? But meaningful. So what are the things you have to consider? What sort of learning activities will make students actively engage in the learning process, right? So that's critical. That's critical because I know you all know these things, but you have to look at the learning activities and see in our courses, are we making students actively engage? You have to think about it. Then, what type of learning resources will enrich the learning experience? Right? What type of learning resources? Now we have so many different types of learning experiences, learning resources. Not only asking them to read everything, because we have the different learning needs, the multiple intelligences, everything is there. We know all those things. But are we catering to different needs? To what extent, other thing is, to what extent these activities and materials are authentic? That is, to what extent they are related to real life issues. If they are not related to real life issues or in their real life context, that will not be relevant for them, that will not be meaningful for them, right? So whatever the activities we are creating, whatever the resources we are giving, are they authentic, interactive and motivating? Then how would they cater to diverse learning needs, as I mentioned? How can it be ensured that they are contextually relevant and culturally appropriate for the learners? We have to think about that as well. Now we have students coming from different contexts, different cultures, different medium. We have so many and different levels, right? So to what extent they are suitable, and how technology can be effectively integrated. That's the other thing. Because now we have those days we didn't have technology, but the available, we try to integrate the available technology, whatever the available technology, right? Now we have enough technology available, you just have to select the most suitable technology which you can integrate, because there are a lot of free digital tools available. So are we really using it? Now about enhancing interactivity. Now in a little while I am going to ask you to talk and give me examples how to do these things. Now interactivity, it's not just teacher and student interaction, there are a lot of other ways of interacting, right? How to encourage peer-peer interactions, how to encourage students to interact with the content. Now you have to think, how can we make students interact with the content we are providing? Say you have identified a good learning resource, right? Say a video, and you have identified another reading also. So what sort of strategies you will take to make sure that students interact with that material? So that's the content now. So we want students to interact with the content. Can you give me an example? how you can do that, or how you are doing that. I'm sure you are doing that. If you can give an example. Yes, the activity has to be embedded within the resource. That is, if you ask them, okay, you give a video clip, you watch the video. If you just watch the video, there's no interactivity. With the watching of video, you have to link it with an activity, right? So interactive. And now there are tools to make interactive videos as well. Free digital tools are there where you can take a video and break it into parts, and after some part you can pose a question for them to reflect and then move on to the next part. So interactive videos are there, and then animations are there. Free tools, I'm talking about free tools, because our students are developing all these things. Sometimes we learn from our students, right? So there are a lot of possibilities in peer interactions, right? Peer interactions. Now, these are the things we are using in the MADE program. These are the things we are using in the MTE program. As I mentioned, the challenging scenarios, activating students, that is important. Activate, how to activate, starting point, activate. So the video or the scenario based video, or you can think about creative ways. Now I want you to think about creative ways. Then individual learning activities as well as collaborative learning activities. Because peer learning is very important. Peer-to-peer interactions, because these are all mature students. In our university, we are catering to mature students, and all in our faculty, especially all are educators. Either teachers or principals or teacher educators, all are in the field of education. So they can very productively interact with each other, right? So how to encourage this collaborative learning? So it's up to us to design such activities. We just can't ask them, okay, you collaborate. No, we have to give them the opportunity. We have to create opportunities for them to collaborate, right? So, okay, how are you designing? Then integrating multimedia learning resources, as I mentioned, and interactive digital tools. Okay, now I am asking you to think. Now I want you to think, how will you provide variety in learning experiences? And how will you activate the learners? How will you integrate multimedia learning resources? How will you integrate open education resources? So this is your challenge. I am asking you how. Now it's your turn to speak up and tell me how you do it now, or how you think you can do these things in your courses, in your teaching learning sessions. Now these are part of your effective facilitation. Okay, now you can start telling me how you do it now. How do you activate learners in your day schools or in the online course? Give me some examples. Yeah? You give specific examples. Give specific examples how you activate, or you can think creatively now and tell me a creative way of.
Give them some open quote and ask them to discuss with their ideas.
Open quote.
On learning more, whether it is leadership.
Yeah, you have to link with your subject also. Otherwise, you can't give a specific example. No. So, if it's about leadership, you want them to give a motivating quote, and then
ask them.
That is like brainstorm. Brainstorm, right? Okay. Can you come up with any other creative ideas? that's a usual thing we do. We ask them about their personal experiences. That is through question and answer sort of thing. Can you think? Okay, one by one. Yeah?
So a small video and we are stopping in the middle. After that, we are asking what happened.
What can happen next, or how will you address this? Yes. You want to say something?
Case study when
Giving a case study, like a scenario, giving a case study, and then
discussion.
you have to give them the challenge. Now, in any act, you activate them with
What are
this thing, and then you have to give them a challenge also.
Role play and storytelling.
Sorry?
Role play and
Role play, yes, you can do role play. I think in your subject, you must be doing that. Storytelling, role play, even a song, even a short drama clip. I have used songs in my school teacher days. That was long time ago, 1980s. Even there, at that time we only had cassette recorders, right? So I was teaching environmental concepts. I used that song. I don't know whether you all have heard that even. There's a song, right? Right? This erosion. There's a very nice song. It's very nice. Even the way it's sung is like very heart touching. Right? Very touching song. I used that to activate learners. This was in 1980s, right? Playing the cassette recorder, and ask them to, these young children, junior second, grade 6, 7, ask them to, okay, come up with creative. Some, if you like, you can draw your feelings. If you can, if you want to write something, or if you can write a poem. They did very creative things. So are we giving such creative opportunities for our students, and are we making our student teachers do such things with their school children? Right? So that's what I am telling you, these things, nobody should be waiting until somebody tells you to do it. And nobody told me to do it. Right? So there are so many ways. So that is, using aesthetics is a very, how would I say, very effective way. Very effective way of, especially with dealing with children, and even us. We like rather than reading a book. We like reading books, of course, but at a session or at a day school session or even online, you might like to have a variety of things now to activate. So think like that. Little things are possible. Little things are possible. Can you come up with some other creative ideas like that?
I use the strategy of referring to some local or international news which is really
News items,
and related to the lesson, like educational psychology, talking about personality. Sometimes some people, why did they do like that?
Yes.
What is the psychology behind this? Like that.
Yeah, so you can use newspaper reports, maybe about some incident, critical incidents. We call them critical incident based learning, right? There are critical incidents every day happening on TV. If you watch TV, so many critical incidents are happening. So you can take one of those clips and use that to create a discussion around the relevant to your subject area. It should be, of course, aligned with your learning outcomes in subject area. So what I am asking you to think in those ways, think differently. So that is to activate. So then they will get activated. Activate the learners. Right? Once you activate, then they keep going. Okay, to activate, there's a challenge. So when you do, the challenge is the learning activity, and it is linked with the assessment task. So if they do it, they get the marks also. Right? That's how you motivate our class. Students want to gain marks also. The assessment is should also be linked with it, right? Okay. Then, okay. Are there any other ideas?
Madam, I have used in the Zoom session for drama students the hot seat technique, the breakout rooms. I use the hot seat for the using make the difference in characters to enhance the learning outcome is value education. The hot seat and then
force questions.
Yes.
Hot seat.
Yeah.
That's also a good thing. Now we see hot seats happening in the TV shows too, right? So that's a technique we can use in our teaching learning process also. Very effectively, I believe. Yes, and they will enjoy that also. I have used debates, right? I have used debates on a certain topic, right? And I have even done online debate. You know, when we were doing this fully online course, as I mentioned, we had an online debate also. They were not meeting physically, no Zoom. At that time, no Zoom, just online discussion forum, right? Using the online discussion forum, we had 2 teams. They had to research and find, and you have to plan it in such a way. It gives same rules. Same rules. You are given this time. Okay, you submit this, and the other person has to read it and oppose it. That's possible. Discussion forums can be used in so many different ways. That's why I am coming to the next one, enhancing online interaction. Don't think this online interaction is just giving something and asking them to read and watch. That's not all, right? So can you tell me any creative ideas about using our model LMS to encourage interactions?
I use some digital tools,
For example, what sort of digital tools you use? Example? Answer garden. Padlet, yes. Yeah. So the Padlet is a very useful tool. I think all of us should be using them. It's very easy to use and very interactive, and it's very effective also, right? Padlet. I also use Padlet most of the time. Padlet and even Mentimeter, right? So there are so many free digital tools which we can use during our Zoom sessions. I mean, now when we are conducting Zoom sessions, it's not just delivering content via Zoom. With the breakout rooms, you can do so many things.
Madam, Padlets, they have given only access for 5.
Yeah, but that's enough. You can reuse them. I have only free access. I have not got the, you have to pay for to get additional. No. I am managing now for some years. I am managing 3 or 4, I think. 3 or 5, maximum 5 I think. But you can reuse them. I keep on reusing them. Right?
And puzzles? Online
puzzles, yes. That's another thing. Now when you remind me, now I am going back to the 1980s again. I used a lot of puzzles, jigsaw puzzles, crossword puzzles. Those are the things we used to do when we were children. Nowadays, I don't know whether these things are done, but they are very enjoyable ways, and they can be done to support achievement of certain learning outcomes. And I have done with teachers as well. Teachers also enjoy. When they are doing the activity, they enjoy. But whether they are going and doing it with their students, that's the difference. So that's what we have to motivate them. So how can we motivate them? Not just by telling them. We have to do the activities with them. Then only they will realize. Like for the food chains and food webs. I was a science teacher. Food chains. Actually, I created a card pack. Card pack with all these different plants and animals. So, as a game, they can create the food chains, put in the proper order. Right? So, all those things, you just have to think. We all have creative thinking. Don't we? We all have. Are we using them? That's the problem. Right? Are we using them, and are we trying to inculcate that with our student teachers? Then other important things, especially with our ODL learners. Now we are dealing with ODL learners now, encouraging self-regulated learning. So how can we do that? Give me some strategies.
When we created the MOOCs, we use
which help them to guide their own learning, what is expected of them. That was a great resource.
So you start, they start their learning journey first writing out their expectations.
Yeah.
Is it?
We provided a study map.
Study map.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we can start, we can give the opportunity to the learner to have their study map.
Yeah.
First they can reflect what they already know and what they
Want to know.
And then after that, teaching them.
At the end, what they have taught you. Yes, that's a good thing. What they already know, what they are expecting to know or learn, and at the end, what have you learned? Yes. So those are strategies. So are we doing such things? So what sort of other strategies we can do to encourage self-regulated learning? Self-regulation is controlling your learning. The learner, making the learner control their own learning. So how can we facilitate them? How can we facilitate the learner to, now we don't want to control their learning, right? Especially in the audio system, we expect them to control their learning. So we have this flexibility now to certain extent. So we can use this online course to a great extent to facilitate self-regulated learning also, isn't it? Through the flexibility. Cooperative learning and collaborative learning. I hope you know the difference between cooperative learning and collaborative learning, right? So all these things are possible in the LMS because we don't meet them. We can do that in the face-to-face day schools also, but we meet them very rarely. In the online, all these things are possible. Then another important thing is promoting reflective practice. Now, especially as teachers, educators, practitioners, this is very important for all of us. For all of us. Remember this particular program, the aim, what was the aim of the MTE program? Making a reflective practitioner. Right? Don't forget that. Making a reflective practitioner. So, how can we support them to become? Now, they need support, but they need our facilitation. How can we support them or facilitate them to become reflective practitioners? Can you give me some strategies?
I think this goes hand in hand with self-regulated learning as well.
Yes.
So reflective writing is a very good strategy and we have been adopting that.
To do reflective writing, how can we support in the LMS? Reflective journal facility is there, right? Now those days we asked them to just write like in a diary manually, but now the LMS is there. The reflective journal is there. Now in the MTE program, the learning portfolio, I remember the seventh course, the learning portfolio is the most important course because that's where we are expecting students to reflect on all the other 6 courses, to reflect on what? To what extent they have achieved their learning outcomes. Because they should not forget the learning outcomes. We also should not forget the learning outcomes, right? So, if we have supported them, if we are facilitating them throughout their learning journey in a particular course, right? If we ask them to maintain a reflective journal, it's a maintain. You should be maintaining it, not just writing something at the very end. Because so many things are happening during the journey, right? So at different points. So we can be flexible. They can do it weekly or whenever they finish some task and feel good about it or feel sad about it, I couldn't do this, even then you have to write they can write the reflective note. What's the purpose of writing this, what's the purpose of asking them to maintain reflective writing reflections? How will it support them?
Identifying strengths and
Identifying strengths and weaknesses. give an activity using the discussion forum. I told you the discussion forum can be used in so many different ways. Once I wrote a paper about also, if I can find a picture, about different ways of using the discussion forum, right? It's not just one way. There are so many ways of doing. You just have to think differently. How can we use the discussion forum to facilitate reflection? Yeah.
We can give some idea and reflections or some idea. They can develop beyond that. They can develop their reflections.
Yeah. Structure. You will have a structure. Yes, you have to structure. So that's why I said you have to design. So we have to become designers now. So we just can't just put the thing and expect students to do it on their own. Then we are not doing any facilitation now. We are talking about guidelines. We have to give guidelines and also structure. Okay, this is what you have to do. This is how the peers also can give feedback. Then based on peer feedback, you can reflect on your own. Now we do something like that in our technology course and even in the research course. We ask them to, in the MTE program, we ask them to, okay, now if they say for example the concept map, we ask them to prepare a concept map. Now creating a concept map is not easy, right? Creating a concept map, even though that's one document, it takes a lot of effort because you have to integrate a lot of things, right? So it's a different, I mean, you have to research, you have to read, you have to think, you have to combine things, link, see the relationships between different concepts, so many things are happening. So once they do it, if we are going to assess that, we ask them before submitting the assessment, we ask them to share a draft of their output, that is the concept map, into the discussion forum. Then get the peer feedback. Then two things are happening. But now when we ask, now we give some marks for that to motivate them to do that. But when you review somebody else's submission, say concept map, what's happening there? Critical thinking. The other students' critical thinking is because you are looking at somebody else's very critically, other than your own one. That's the usual human nature, right? So so that's okay. So you use that human nature to improve their critical thinking and then give constructive feedback. That's another thing. We have to encourage students to give constructive feedback to each other. That's very important because sometimes you don't see your own shortcomings. Now I see when I look at the discussion, we don't go and interrupt. We allow them to discuss. Peer facilitated discussion forums. Peer facilitated discussion forums are very powerful. Yesterday at the reflections, the learning portfolio presentations, students told we never knew that we can learn so many things from our peers. Yesterday they said that, right? We never thought we can learn because usually in our culture, we think, okay, you do it on your own, don't show it to the others, keep the assignment safe. No, we said, okay, you can share your draft assignment or draft concept map or plan or whatever with the peers. Get peer feedback. Give constructive feedback to each other. Then reflect on then another thing happens. Then when you get feedback, you see, oh, now I thought like this, but the others are seeing this in a different way. So you reflect on your work, right? How can I improve this? That's the improvement. How can I improve it? So, okay, you improve it and submit the improved version as the final submission. No harm. No harm. It's not copy. It's improving yourself. So we are allowing. So that's the facilitated role. We can't be very strict and say, no, you can't show it to anybody. No. This is peer learning happening. We should encourage them so that everybody is developing. Right? Everybody's higher order thinking skills are developing. Right. Then promoting reflective practice. Then when you do all these things, this group of people, they get very close to each other. Now they didn't meet. Now during COVID period, for example, they didn't meet at all. Now when I did my very first fully online course, I told you at the beginning we did a fully online like Mr., Mrs., very formal addresses. And then they were calling nicknames also. Right? They have not met at all. Right? But they have become a learning community because this peer interaction is very powerful. Right? Now we have a lot of, we can even use video calls and a lot of other facilities also. They are now, but even using text. Now it's not only in English, they are using in single medium, Tamil medium, they are doing all the now. They do all the typing and they put emojis to show their feelings, expressions, whether they are happy or angry or sad, these emoticons and a lot of things are happening, right? So that is important to create that learning community, helping each other, sharing with each other, and also I put in the discussion forum a place where they also can share resources with the others. It's not only what we, because we are all co-learners in this. We are also learning through this in the teaching learning process. Teachers and learners all are co-learners. Even at school level, teachers are learning a lot of things from school children today because they move very fast with the technological world, right? Alpha generation. Yes. So we learn a lot of, we are co-learners. So we should, now in our cultural way, there's still this gap. Or we think, okay, we have to be quiet and listen to the teacher. In our sessions also, students start like that, they are very silent, they are scared to talk. But then if we, that's us, that's our facilitator, right? So if we become friendly with them, if we interact with them freely, if we allow them opportunities to talk, give them in the school, so same thing, school classroom. You just shut down everybody, nothing creative will come up. Right? Now when we interact with them, they come up with sometimes better ideas. They can come up with creative ideas. They find good resources. And then we give them opportunity to share the resources. Maybe we can give some additional marks to those who, because as an incentive, right? So there are so many things that we can do. Any other things? Any other things you would like?
Master of Education program they conducted. They told without their meeting, online they are practicing some dance.
Really?
Yes. Candy and color.
During COVID period, no?
Yes, no, last year.
Candy and
get together and they practice online.
Dance. Yeah, that's possible. You can have the videos. So such creative people we have, right? That's the thing. Yes.
So I was also thinking about that group. They mentioned that, and in the end, when such those learning communities get together, they form communities of practice.
Of course. So what are communities of practice? Can you explain that?
Yeah. Now these are like senior teachers, so they would get together in their practice, like their
with a common aim, common goal, with shared ideas. Right? We all should be like that. We all should be like that. That's why we requested the whole faculty, all staff members, senior, junior, newcomers, everybody together. Because even the most junior person might have some creative ideas, right? And we all have different experiences. We all have our own life experiences, and we all have experiences with our students, and we all have this same goal. We all have the same aim. So at the Faculty of Education, we have always been working as one family. I think I should emphasize on that as well. So whatever we are doing, all these projects we did, all these innovative things, the whole faculty got together and did it. So that we are leaving nobody out, everybody, the capacity building is happening in everybody. And everybody can share with each other. There's no competition or, we are all in this as a learning community, and then we move towards becoming communities of practice. Okay, so I think you gave a lot of ideas. So I just wanted to highlight what you have told with some theories and models that different people have presented. Now this is about online interactions, right? Now in online interactions, according to this model, there are three types of presences. Who is present there in the online? Now see, we are not meeting the student. The student is online. We are online. The teacher presence, teaching presence is there, right? Now teaching, when you say teaching presence, we give all the guidelines, instructions. So all those things are teaching related, the learning activities. So all those things are there. Then is that enough? Is that enough? Is that enough? What do you think? We put all the resources as well. We put the learning resources, the activities, how to engage in the learning activities, leading that the cognitive process. The knowledge development, knowledge building is happening there now. So that because whatever the resources we are giving, whatever the learning activities, they all have to be linked with the learning outcome. So that cognitive process should happen, right? So the cognitive presence also should be there. But that's also not enough. The social presence is also should be there. These three presences are important, right? So these in online interactions, this not only giving the resources. If you give a lot of resources, the cognitive presence will be there, right? But if you don't give guidelines and specific instructions and giving feedback and giving them the teacher guidance, the teacher presence won't be there. No, they expect the teacher presence. Then, okay, teacher might do all those things and then just wait. No, they need that social presence. Social, that is where this discussion forum, not only discussion forum, wikis are there. There are other tools. Lot of tools are there in the Moodle LMS which we are not using. We are just using very limited number of tools. There's a tool called workshops, which I also have not used. I'm going to use it with the next batch. Wikis we tried, but it did not succeed with our students. We have to find ways of motivating them to do those things. Now, when they reflect, when they finally reflect on their learning, then they say, now only we realize how these activities helped us to develop. Some of them were like saying, I feel very happy that I selected this program. I thought it's just without having a final examination, it will be very easy. But it's like every day we are facing examinations. One person said like that. It's like every day, all mini projects, all are like examinations.
Coordinator called me yesterday, as we all finished yesterday, and she said, throughout the year, I was facing exams and I'm always online. And she said, I motivated everyone to share their resources. I started sending resources.
Yeah. So you just have to activate. That's when you activate and motivate, and also you have to demonstrate that you are doing it as well. It's not just asking them to do. If you don't do it, they won't be. So you have to demonstrate how to do it also, right? So that social presence is very important. Now there's a lot of research done on, even I have done about these three presences. Social presence is very important because they need that human interaction, at least in the online forum. In some ways, this social interaction, because we are all social beings, so we are all human beings, we need this social interaction, right? Okay. Then please think about them, and that's why I am asking you to think. Now, we know, I hope by now all online courses are developed. Is it? Now, our target was to develop online courses for all courses at least by end of this year. I hope. I don't know whether it's 100%, it should. But it's not only developing online courses. It's not only developing. You have to think about these things. Why are we developing online courses? Is it only because university is asking us to develop? No. To facilitate our students. To facilitate our students. It's not only to put resources. How to facilitate? Think about these things. They feel like real humans talking, like the previous slide. See? You talk with each other through the computer. Right? Okay, so that social presence, in addition to teaching presence and cognitive presence, is very important. And of course, self-regulated learning, we talked about that. I think you know this cyclic process: planning, acting, reflecting. Planning, acting, reflecting. So we also have to do the same. We also have to do the same thing. At the end of each course, we have to reflect on our teaching, on our courses, how we have planned. Okay, we have acted. Now we reflect and see. Okay, what are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? How can we improve? All those things are it's important for our own self-development. If we don't do that, we will be stagnating at the same point. Right? If we don't do that. If we do that, you will develop. Every cycle, think about something new to incorporate. You will be motivated because there are so many things happening out around us which we are not aware of. We are very slow in moving forward, right? So please think about these things and promoting. This is the model we use, simple model we use for our students to reflect. In the MTE program, we ask them to reflect, answering these 3 questions. I think that's a good thing for us also, right? This first model: what, so what, now what. Very simple. What is okay, what happened? That is in what happened. So what? Okay, this happened, so what? So what have you gained out of it? What's its impact on you? Have you changed any of your practices? After this experience, has your thinking changed? Have you thought about, have you learned something new? Have you developed a new skill? Or has your attitudes changed? Has your thinking about previous thinking changed now? So that's the, okay, discuss what has been learned, not only learned, but its impact on you. Then, okay, now what? Okay, so this is, I have learned this, I have developed these competencies. So what am I going to do with these competencies? Now we all have developed our competencies in different ways. So how are we going to practically use? Yes, I mean, if we don't use our competencies, what's the point of getting all those certificates? And we have a lot of qualifications and certificates and awards and so many things. Then what's the point of just keeping them if you are not using them, right? So how to use them and also how to improve in the next cycle. Now we are continuing in our academic journey. Now we are still continuing, and we also have a few more years, right? But you all have a lot more years. So, okay, how? I mean, even after that, we are lifelong learners. No, anyway, we are all lifelong learners. So, how can we keep on improving? Now, what is related to that as well? So, this is what we use with MTE students to support, facilitate them, because they also don't know when we ask them to okay reflect, they don't know how to reflect. We have to guide them. We have to give them a format. Now, when we give them a format and explain, then only they realize how to reflect also. And then they, now yesterday when they present their reflections, then some of them really did it with their heart. You know, the reflections comes from your heart. What you really feel. So I remember those days some students even cried when they became so emotional when we had physical oral presentations those days. Some even cried, right? Okay, so and fostering learning communities, right? So this is very easy now with all these tools available around us, right? Using the technology, the instructor, peers, the content. Don't forget the content. Content is there, right? But don't only rely on content. Don't only think about it. Content is there. Content is there, but around this all these things are happening. Right? So how to foster learning communities and how to encourage shared knowledge among everybody. Okay, so finally we will be developing this 21st century learning skills that everybody is talking about. Right? So it's not just talking about how to develop these 21st century learning skills among school children, among teachers, within us. So you can see all this creative thinking, critical thinking, communication, collaborative learning. We know all those things. But to what extent are these things happening? And for all these things, now we are using technology. Now we are integrating technology. Whether we like it or not, we are in the digital era. So we have to, because even our lives, everything's digital now. The bills are coming digital, the transactions are digital, everything's digital. So why not teaching and learning? Now sometimes you will say, okay, I can't do teaching, and then how do you do the other transactions digitally? You do that because there's no other way, right? So for that you need the digital literacy as well. That's very important. Digital literacy among us, among our teachers, and among school children as well. Because from us it goes to the our target groups are teachers and principals, and yesterday they are education directors and all high level categories were there. But they were all reflecting, but there were some very good examples of some zonal director. Immediately after the technology course, how she has become motivated. She is not a teacher, but with the motivation, how she conducted workshops for teachers to integrate technology. She has done that. So that's what we are expecting, not just talk about it, but really to do things. So in this faculty we have done so many things over the years, right? So this is just one example. This MADE program is one unique example which we did 20 years ago, right? So you have to continue not only with this program but also to apply these principles into other programs also. And okay, think out of the box. That's my request from you all. I'm sure you all can do that. Come up with creative ideas. And share the ideas among each other. I think we should have, we have decided once a month, we should have this sort of workshops where actually we could not have the workshop style today, but we should have workshops where everybody can actively participate and do the workshop. Okay, so any final ideas before we finish this session? Any suggestions? Okay, then if there aren't any other ideas or any other, you have anything to say? No. Okay, then I think we can stop the session, sir. Stop the session now. So I wish you all good luck in your creative thinking and innovative endeavors.